Imagine waking up, checking your phone, and seeing XRP still chilling at $2, while some kind of dog-themed meme coin just did another 10x. Kind of feels like the game's rigged, doesn't it? Yeah, that's exactly how I felt this morning, and it kind of pushed me down a rabbit hole that's pretty much hijacked my entire coffee routine. So instead of scrolling mindlessly, I started piecing together this bizarre puzzle of why a coin designed to move money across the globe in a blink of an eye is apparently nailed to the floor, while the circus coins get to swing from, well, the chandeliers. Now, by the end of this video, you're going to see why that frustration that you feel might actually be a part of a much bigger plan, and why I'm no longer mad about it, but quietly excited. So stick with me here, because what looks like a price problem might actually be a once-in-a-lifetime setup. Okay, so quick personal side note. If you've ever kind of yelled at your screen watching XRP do the sideways shuffle, you're not alone. Now, my group chat is basically a therapy session at this point. And speaking of groups, if you want to vent, laugh, or just share charts with people who get it, our free crypto Discord server is linked down in the description. Slide in there after the video and just remember to bring your best gift game. Now, let's talk suppression, right? Not some kind of spooky conspiracy theory in your mum's basement vibe, but real, nuts and bolts version explained by the mysterious Twitter sage who goes by 𝗕𝗃𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘. I don't know how they come up with the names. I don't. But the thread starts with bang. XRP isn't your typical crypto. It's more like the plumbing behind the walls. You know, unglamorous, yet the whole building floods without it. So while everyone is distracted by coins that do more than kind of look, or at least do nothing more than look shiny, XRP's entire job is to settle cross-border payments in seconds. There's no pre-funding, no multi-day suspense, just zing. Done. And that utility is exactly why it's both priceless and, brace yourself, intentionally kept cheap. It sounds backwards, right? But keep the asset that can save the financial system trillions at coffee money prices, but hear me out, because it starts making twisted sense. So picture the world's biggest banks as pro chess players. They're not reacting to today's move, they're actually planning 12 moves ahead. So to them, XRP is the queen on the board. It's unstoppable once unleashed. So to catch, or at least the catch I should say, if the public realizes that the queen is loose too soon, well, the board kind of flips, the game ends, and, well, they lose control. So they act like the queen is nothing special. Keep her tucked in a corner and stack pawns, all around her until their strategy is, well, ready. Meanwhile, of course, retail investors, that's you and I, are left staring at the scoreboard wondering why nothing is even happening. So here is where it gets even more spicier. 𝗕𝗃𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘 points to central banks, private liquidity desks, and sneaky payment processors gobbling up XRP like it's Black Friday, but without alerting the masses. So cheap XRP means low costs to stockpile while, at least the ammunition, I guess, that they'll need when cross-border traffic finally really shifts. So imagine buying up all of the tickets to the hottest concert before anyone knows that the band is even back together. Now, once the spotlight flips on, of course, the same ticket that you snagged for peanuts sells for a small fortune, and you're calling the shots. But cheap tickets alone won't keep the crowd out forever, right? They need a smoke machine, something dramatic that scares casual fans away while insiders waltz through the side door. Enter the SEC lawsuit. Yeah, that never-ending courtroom soap opera. Now, according to 𝗕𝗃𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘, calling it a kind of straightforward securities debate is kind of like calling the Super Bowl just a friendly game of catch. Right? The lawsuit drags on, headlines kind of shout uncertainty, and your uncle at family dinner warns you to stay away from that illegal coin. Perfect cover, right? Now, meanwhile, of course, Ripple's quietly signing deals with more than 40 banks, testing central bank digital currency pilots in tiny island nations and collaborating with heavyweights in the UK, the UAE and Singapore. All while the case file, keeps growing like a stack of overdue library books. So we should probably think about it. Every new partnership is a silent kind of wink to the institutions. Hey, the rails are being built, keep stacking. Retail, of course, distracted by the scary legal jargon, happily sells the dips. Institutions load the truck, and the financial version of a clearance sale, kind of where the store owner is, the one kind of whispering, "Psst, prices won't stay this low forever." It's wild, right? Now, I know what you're thinking. This is a great theory, but where's the proof, right? So let me kind of give you a quick economics flashback. Simplified, right? The invisible hand vibe. If supply stays locked and demand quietly ramps up, well, price eventually explodes, no matter who's building the match, right? But if the people controlling demand also control the narrative, well, they can delay ignition. It's kind of like holding a beach ball underwater. You can keep holding or keep pressing it down, but the longer that you hold, the more violent the pop will be eventually further down the line. And it's not just banks on the secret, right? The XRP ledger is blooming with platforms like Doppler Finance offering on-chain yields that basically tell old school hedge funds, thanks, but we'll take it from here. So every time a new yield opportunity appears, another slither of the traditional finance pie disappears. So asset managers, they are famous for their kind of iron grip on client money. If that grip loosens because retail can earn yields directly on chain, well, the whole fee-taking model wobbles. That's existential kind of dread for Wall Street, right? So of course they would rather the party stay private until their VIP passes print. Okay, so let me hit pause and toss in a friendly reminder then, because none of this is financial advice. I'm literally just a guy ranting at, well, two cameras, sharing how weird all of this actually looks from the kind of eucalyptus scented home office, which I wish that plant was real. It's not. But seriously, right? There's a candle burning, and it might just be legit. But I will say this, narratives, they do indeed matter. If you only listen to the loudest noise, price tickers or sensational headlines, you'll miss the whisper that actually changes everything. So you want proof that whispers actually work. So let's cast your mind back to Bitcoin's early days. It was treated like the funny internet money, while university quants and Silicon Valley tinkerers, mined it on laptops. You fast forward and institutions are now offering custody services and ETFs. So by the time that CNBC was telling your grandma how to buy some, most of the upside was actually eaten. Now, history doesn't repeat, but it sure claps on the 2 and the 4. Okay then, so what happens next? Well, Pompeius says that the price is not broken, it's just locked. And locks have keys. Now the keys here are adoption and clarity, right? One day, no calendar invites, no fireworks, Ripple settles or wins big, a global payment giant flips the switch, and suddenly on-demand liquidity numbers spike on-chain. Market makers need XRP in bulk. Supply on exchanges evaporates. Now remember, right, the kind of beach ball analogy earlier? Yeah, it's surfacing with vengeance. And here is why my vibe flips from annoyed to borderline kind of giddy, I guess. If that scenario does indeed play out, all the retail holders who slept through the suppression era, they become the surprise winners. So think underdog victory montage straight out of a sports movie. The institutions, they won't mind paying a premium later on. By then, they'll actually be ranking, or at least raking in transaction fees off volumes that we can barely even imagine right now. So paying $10 for something that saves you $100 per transaction is kind of like chump change. And I know, right? Now, before anybody yells Moon Boy, let's kind of talk about risk, right? Because could the plan backfire? And sure, regulation might overreach, right? A better tech could of course pop up, or maybe even aliens land and say the XRP, nah, we use quantum credits. Anything is possible is my point here. And that is why smart money never bets the farm, right? But understanding the story means that you're playing chess, not checkers. And if you're going to play, you might as well know the rules. And here is another analogy, right? Everyday investors, they get discouraged by slow price action, sell, and they move on. Now, they're the weak hands that 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗧𝗃 kind of says the elite want to shake out. It's classic patience arbitrage then, right? The longer that you can stand the boredom, the more chips that you can scoop from the table when things finally move. Now, I've personally watched friends bail on coins just before big rallies because they got tired of waiting. And that's kind of like quitting a marathon at mile 25 because you just can't see the finish line yet. And it's brutal. So let me give you another anecdote that still kind of haunts me, right? Back in 2013, I owned a stupid amount of Bitcoin, right? Bought at ridiculously low prices. It sat flat for so long that I sold them, to buy a used guitar amp. 3 weeks later, Bitcoin hit ridiculously high numbers. That amp, it kind of buzzed kind of like a swarm of bees. The lesson burned into my brain here, right? Boring isn't the enemy, it's impatience that is. So whenever XRP refuses to budge, I remind myself of that buzzy kind of amp and keep my itchy finger off the sell button. Now, if you're nodding, thinking, yeah, that makes sense, but I need more than just vibes, you're welcome to join me on Bluefin, the up-and-coming crypto exchange, and you'll kind of find the link in the description below. Now, I've been tinkering with their advanced order types to set, patient bids way below market, ready just in case another artificially induced dip hits. Now, that kind of leaving, I guess it's kind of like leaving a sticky flypaper in the market's kitchen. So yeah, check them out, right? If you want to get started trading on an exchange that actually feels built for the next wave. All right, let's zoom back out here, right? Because let's address the elephant, the suppression. It sounds shady, almost criminal, but in big money land, it can be perfectly legal, right? Market makers adjust spread, choose when to provide liquidity, and use dark pools that let whales buy quietly. All above board, of course. This isn't Hogwarts magic, it's just plumbing once again. And they're gaming the rules that they wrote. So our edge is actually realizing that the game exists in the first place. And so you're probably wondering then, when does the lock actually open? And there's no date set in stone, but clues they do stack up. Settlement talks are heating up, on-chain volumes are creeping higher, and central bank tests digital currencies built on the XRPL. So each headline is a kind of tumbler, clicking into place, if you will. Now, we might be one breaking news banner away from all those tumblers lining up perfectly, but if history is any guide, the initial squeeze is rather violent, hilarious, and too quick for the average kind of person to or at least average app reloader, if you will, to actually catch it. So timing is quite difficult. So what can we do in the meantime then? Well, my plan is actually quite simple. Let's keep learning, let's keep stacking knowledge and maybe a few extra XRP on the red days, and stay plugged into communities that spot clues early. So that Discord link that I mentioned earlier, use it. Right, we post charts, legal case summaries, and the occasional meme featuring a certain regulator wearing clown shoes. You know the one. And it keeps the spirits high even during the lulls. So let's wrap this story up today then. The TLDR, that's XRP's sluggish price action, is not a bug. It's a feature in the eyes of the power players. Now, I'm buying, or at least they are buying time, stockpiling ammo and, letting retail boredom do half of the work for them. Now, when the curtain finally lifts, $2 coin could look like history's biggest clearance sale, or maybe just the kind of guy with PTSD from the buzzing app. Now, either way, ignoring the possibility seems riskier than, well, paying attention.